Yes. What is up, everyone? And welcome to Dwayne De Rosario's favorite podcast in soccer we trust. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Hollywood Heath Pearce, and we want to talk a little Canadian men's national team, not only because of the respect we have for them being the best team in CONCACAF during World Cup qualifying, but also because the U.S. men's national team just played one of Canada's opponents in the group stage of the World Cup, Morocco, and we feel like we can give a little insight, me and Heath. Now, what's interesting is that they're going to play Morocco last. So they're going to have to get past Belgium and Croatia first, Heath Pearce, before they even get a taste of Morocco. And we could argue if they lose the first two games of that group, there's not much to necessarily play for in that Morocco game. I mean, outside of just being last in the group, you don't want that. I think Canada's actually going to surprise some people. I really like their team in a lot of different ways. But we saw Morocco. We've seen Canada multiple times. I think Canada can beat Morocco, no problem.
Yeah, I agree. They're just so dynamic. But more than anything, if you go back to all the qualifying, and again, I'm trying to snap out of the World Cup qualifying because that in itself is a project, right? And then you go back to reality in a number of different ways. We saw that with the U.S. playing against Morocco, completely different type of game. Granted, the edge is off. It's a friendly and whatnot, but you're playing a different style of play from a different region. And it's a little bit of a different kind of game. It's an international game that we were so used to for, you know, most of our, or a lot of our international career. And when I think about Canada, they were so well built for World Cup qualifying in terms of their efficiency that they had a game plan that worked in World Cup qualifying. Now, I'm interested to see, obviously, their match against Iran was canceled. And so I really wanted to see the way in which they played against Iran, one for ourselves, because we'll play against Iran in the World Cup, but also just to see how they play against a different type of opponent. Canada have all the hype in the world in our region right now, but they've yet to really earn that respect outside of that. And I wanted to see how well their style of play could adjust to a different type of opponent with a different style of play and those types of things. And so they definitely got a challenge in terms of Morocco. Morocco against the U.S. was not great, right? The U.S. kind of battered them. They got fatigued very, very early. They arrived 2 days before the game. When you look at Morocco's
goalkeeper surprisingly made a mistake with Bunu. I mean,
yeah, it's the best goalkeeper in Spain, right?
Best goalkeeper, got the Zamora Trophy in La Liga this past season with the best goals against average for Sevilla. Makes a mistake. That's unlikely to happen. I mean, it could happen, but I doubt it will in the World Cup. What I do like, though, just to jump in and interrupt you, Heath Pearce, I love doing that, is the fact that Canada's attack is so dynamic. And I feel like if they see a version of it that we've seen, especially when they played against Mexico in Mexico, I thought they were really good in that game in particular of troubling the Mexican defense and Alphonso Davies pushing up really, really high to cause a threat. I mean, my favorite matchup of this one is Alphonso Davies versus Achraf Hakimi. I mean, that's a foot race. Like, who's going to win that foot race every single time? It's going to be such a thrilling matchup, that 1v1 matchup. I'm excited to see. And then you have Jonathan David, Kyle Aaron going up against Romain Saiss, who plays for Wolves and is the captain of the Moroccan national team, and Naif Aguerd, who could be making the move from Rennes after a tremendous season in Ligue 1. There's a lot of teams that are interested in the 26-year-old center back who didn't necessarily look great. I mean, I don't know if anybody really looked great from Morocco, to your point about the U.S. game, but we know they have the quality, and they've got players in front of them as well that on their day can be very dangerous. I wish we would have seen a little bit more Youssef En-Nesyri from a U.S. perspective, just to challenge our center backs in a little bit of a different way, given how successful he was for Sevilla when healthy. But when I look at the organization of Canada and how well that John Herdman prepares his teams, and I'm sure he's disappointed he didn't get a crack at Iran from a competitive standpoint. I understand why they canceled the game, because there 85 Canadians died when when there was that shooting of the Ukraine a plane that went down. And so there's a lot of, they should have thought that through about who they were trying to book. But I get the sense that Canada needs a better opponent. They're going to play against Panama on Sunday. And that's obviously an opponent that they know. And it just feels a little last ditch. And from a pure sporting preparation standpoint, it's a bit of a shame that they didn't find a better opponent, because then they only have that game and they have 2 Nations League games that are going to happen against Curacao and Honduras, which, again, they should beat all 3 of these teams and not really know if they could get challenged in a way. They'll get challenged in some ways, but yeah. I think you know what I'm trying to say. They didn't they didn't go find that big opponent, the Brazils of the world, to really kind of poke some holes into what they need to work on, frankly.
Hey, by the way, Jimmy, producer Des just gave us a fun fact of the day, is that Bonu, who was goalkeeper of the year in Spain, was actually born in Canada. Could have played for the Canadian national team. Imagine.
But then we wouldn't have Borjan, who wears sweatpants. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That is true. That is
there's a lot to
very,
take.
very true. Be careful what you wish for, That's right. And I would never wish to not have Bora Nua's the sweatpants that he was.
I hope he wears them in the World Cup, by the way. I hope he wears them in the World Cup.
But in terms of Canada, I think it's a big loss that they're not facing a different type of opponent. I think that could be the one thing that hurts them come the World Cup is that those players in themselves, while they have a lot of experience, have a lot of high-quality players playing at big clubs, have not faced, as a national team, a diverse type of opponent. And Morocco, they're going to be able to watch. I'm sure most of those players watch that game against the U.S. just to kind of take in the style of play. Didn't play great in that game either, which I think is a little bit of a loss for Canada to be able to really take that in. But Morocco are technical. They're explosive. They're quick. They're dynamic also, in and out the other side, and they're going at you. When they did that well against the U.S. also showed some vulnerabilities to not be able to stop that. Actually, Morocco getting some big chances out of that. So a few of those little things you start to go, okay, they've got some quality. They've obviously shown in the results that they've gotten over the last couple of years, had an off day against the U.S. But in this game, if it were to come down to, Jimmy, the final match of the group, do you like Canada's chances to be able to take down Morocco? Again, taking out the context of this week.
When I look at the group, and just as a reminder, it's Belgium, Croatia, Canada, and Morocco. Belgium and Canada play first. I think that Canada can steal a point there. Belgium are incredibly successful and consistent at underperforming in big tournaments, and I could see them maybe dropping points there. I don't know if Canada's going to steal all three, but because John Herdman has the most time to prepare for that game out of all three of them, the one that you play first is the one you have the most time to prepare for. I think he's going to be ready for Belgium. And then obviously it's out there to execution. We know that Belgium are going to get their chances, but they do have a tendency of not capitalizing on those chances. Croatia, I think, are on the downslope. They obviously have some very talented players, got to the World Cup final in 2018. They're just a little bit older, but as we've learned with Luka Modric, who plays for Real Madrid, they age like fine wine over there. So you just don't know which version of Croatia are going to show up. But maybe they're relying on these guys who put a lot of miles on their bodies over many, many years of playing. Canada, I think, will have a little bit more energy and could steal some points there, which means I'm building this up because I think they could be going into that last game having to beat Morocco to get into the next round. I think Belgium get through. And then I think it's really this group's pretty wide open, but Belgium should get through on paper. They have the talent. Roberto Martinez, a well-respected manager, Thierry Henry, assistant, right? He's back with them. I think they're going to have enough, and Thibaut Courtois is in goal, right? He's always going to give you a chance in any game. Croatia, I think, is beatable, and Morocco is beatable. So I think Canada can find themselves in a spot where they're going to probably have to get a result in that last game. And I wonder where Morocco is going to be at that point, right? Because they're going to play Croatia first, and then they play Belgium, and then they play Canada. It's almost like you wish this game would have been played earlier in the tournament, because I think it would have dictated how they approach those other two big teams in the group. But I do think that one or both could have a chance to go through, but they're going to have to beat each other. I don't think either one is going to come into this, Heath, only needing a draw, right, to get through. I think that they're both going to have to get the full 3 points, and that really adds some prestige and intrigue to this game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that it's the third game, it changes the whole dynamic where it's a little bit of a wait and see. But Morocco, certainly, if they find their form in the way that they have previous to this U.S. game, they're tough to play against. They're one of the top teams in their region. They have a lot of high quality players. They were missing some of their players as well, some of which are left off the roster right now. Others just didn't come for this trip. But when you watch them play, they're a different dynamic and can definitely punish you. So it'll be interesting to see what it comes down to in that final game. I don't think it'll be an easy one. I don't think Canada have a single easy moment in that group. And it could come down to one of them having to get all 3 points potentially to see their way into the knockout round. Yeah,
it's going to be fascinating. I'm pulling for Canada in every single way. This is the first time they qualified for a World Cup in 36 years. And as we got to see and witness for ourselves in World Cup qualifying, they are tremendously talented and very, very well coached. We're hopeful to have some of the Canadian players or Coach John Herdman on the show moving forward before the World Cup kicks off. And that would be a big thrill for us here on In Soccer We Trust. So that's all we got, Canadian fans. We obviously wish you the best. We're pulling for you guys, and we think that you have the goods to get past Morocco. So on behalf of producer Des Norris, Hollywood Heath Pearce, I'm Jimmy Conrad saying thank you for this brief snippet of In Soccer We Trust. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you very, very soon. Later.